You all have been working on rounding since probably about first or second grade. You learned front-end estimation. You learned lots of different ways to round. So the big rounding rule that you all know is that if it's 5, you round up. If it's 4 or below, you round down. So we want to see why the rounding rule works. And in order to do that, you can look on a number line. When we're dealing with decimals, you can look at where the decimal falls on a number line to show you what the number rounds to. So let's say we wanted to round 3 47 hundredths to the nearest tenth. That 4 right there is in the tenths place. We know that 3 47 hundredths will round to either 3 4 tenths, or 3 5 tenths, or 3 40 hundredths, or 3 50 hundredths. Those are equivalent. 3 4 tenths and 3 40 hundredths are equal to each other. So these numbers are going to be the first and last numbers on the number line. We know that 3 45 hundredths would fall between 40 and 50. We know 45 comes between 40 and 50. So we'll place that on the number line. And then we can place the decimal that we're rounding on the number line also. So this is where 3 47 hundredths would fall on the number line. And I think I need a pen. So this is where 3 47 hundredths would fall on the number line, so you can see visually that it's closer to 3 50 hundredths than it is to 3 40 hundredths. So if we were going to round 7 52 hundredths to the nearest tenth, the 5 here is in the tenths place. First, we have to determine what two benchmarks we will use by looking at the tenths place. So this is a 5, so I know that my benchmark would be 7 5 or tenths, or 7 50 hundredths, and 7 60 hundredths. So I would go ahead, I know that there are going to be 9 tick marks. So this would be 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60. I just go ahead and put all my tick marks in. 7 52 hundredths would fall right here. And then you can see it's only 2 jumps back to 7 50 hundredths, but it's 8 jumps forward. So you can see visually that 7 52 hundredths rounds to 7 50 hundredths. So if we were going to round 4 26 hundredths to the nearest tenth, first we would start by placing our benchmarks. So I know that 2 is the number that I'm rounding to. This 2 is in the tenths place. So that means at the end of my benchmarks, or the end of my number line, I need 4 20 hundredths, and I need 4 30 hundredths, because I have to decide if this 2 is going to stay at 2 or if it's going to go up to a 3. So this would be 4 21 hundredths, 4 22 hundredths, 4 23 hundredths, 4 24 hundredths, 4 25 hundredths, 4 26 hundredths. So this is where it falls on the number line. And then I can see it's 1, 2, 3, 4 hops from 4 30 hundredths. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hops to 4 20 hundredths. So I can see that 4 26 hundredths would round to 4 30 hundredths, or 4 3 tenths. If I'm going to round 3 554 thousandths to the hundredths place, this is my number in the hundredths place. On my number line, I'm going to have 3 550 hundredths. And this is going to be 3 560 hundredths. So I know that this 5 is either going to stay a 5 or it's going to round up to 6. So this tick mark would be 3.551, 3 551 thousandths, 3 552 thousandths, 3 553 thousandths, 3 554 thousandths, and so forth. This would be 3 and 555 thousandths, 556 thousandths, 557 thousandths, 558 thousandths, 559 thousandths. Sorry for my uneven spacing. But by looking at this now, I can see that I'm closer. I'm 1, 2, 3, 4 hops from 3 and 550 thousandths. And I'm 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hops from 3 and 560 thousandths. So I can see that 3 and 554 thousandths would round to 3 and 550 thousandths. So you're familiar with rounding rules because they're the same rounding rules that we use with whole numbers. So this should be pretty easy. So real quickly, we're going to do some examples. Let me get to a blank page. We're going to do some examples from tonight's homework. So our first number, for number 1, we have 73 and 49 hundredths. And we don't have to make a number line for this. We're just going to round. And we're rounding to the ones place. So you're going to look next door. This number is a 4. So I know that that 3 is going to stay the same. So when I round, I'm going to get 73. Now, a lot of you have learned in previous grades to add zeros to fill in the blanks. So a lot of you are going to write 73 and 0 hundredths, and that is totally fine. Number 2 is 2 and 9 thousandths, and we're rounding to the tenths place. I'm going to look next door, and that's a 0. So I know that this is going to round to 2, just actually the whole number 2, and you can fill in the blank with zeros or fill in the rest with zeros. We're going to skip and do number 10. We've got 46 and 960 thousandths, and the 9 is in the tenths place, and that's what we're rounding to. When I look next door, I can see that there's a 6. And remember, if it's 5 or greater, you're going to round up. Now, what do I do? Because it's a 9. And if I round up, then that makes it a 10. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to carry. And I'm going to add 1 over here. So this would actually end up being 47. And I'm going to fill in with zeros. So that was a tough one. Let's do number 19. We have 4 and 50 thousandths, and it says to round to the hundredths place. So there's a 0 next door, so this would round to 4 and 5 hundredths, and you could go ahead and put the 0 back. It doesn't matter. Number 26, we've got 3 and 25 hundredths, and we're rounding to the whole number 3. So this would end up being 3 as an answer. Hope this helps, guys. Gave you lots of good answers on your homework, and I think that's all for now.